Bates here with your Real America's Voice newsbreak. Thanks so much for being here with us. Happening today, the U.S. House expected to vote on a measure that would force the Justice Department to release all of the information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. We're expecting a vote to happen here in short order. Let's take you right to the U.S. Capitol. Benny Ray Harmony joining us. She is RAV's congressional correspondent. So, Benny Ray, this is an anticipated vote. It's something that President Trump has even reversed course on as recently as last night, saying, go ahead, release all of the information. The president also saying that if and when today's legislation does pass, he is willing to sign it.
Yeah, and Terrence, one of the biggest conversations happening on the Hill right now between both lower and upper chamber is the victims. Now, Terrence, we heard this morning in a press conference at the House Triangle, we heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, as well as a few others, and the victims. And the victims' voices are carrying all the way through these chambers. Speaker Johnson had a press conference this morning as well, where he went into a little bit more depth explaining to people why he was against the Epstein files, and it goes back to the victims. He said that in this current bill, he will vote for it, but he said that he wants amendments to happen once it gets to the Senate, because he said there's not enough protections in the current bill for the victims, and this also could lead to, sexual type of content being released that maybe the public doesn't want to see. And so, yes, 2 to 2:15 is when we are expecting this vote to take place, and we are expecting a unanimous vote as of now from Democrats and Republicans on both sides.
And I'm glad you brought up the victims, because one of the arguments that's been made from the president on down is that Democrats didn't care about the victims during the last administration. Only now that President Trump is in office, is there this focus from Democrats in particular on the victims.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things that one of the victims, I believe her name was Danielle, she said this morning was, this is not political. This is human. And she is calling on Democrats and calling on these lawmakers to stop making this a political show vote. And that's exactly what Mike Johnson said it was about this morning. But this is a clear effort by the Democrats. And now that Trump has said, you know what, release them. Now, what are the Democrats doing? They're silent. And so, we've heard multiple times that this is not going to implicate President Trump. The victims have said that, and many lawmakers on committees have said the exact same thing. I think the Democrats aren't going to like what is going to come out in this. Epstein visited the Bill Clinton White House 17 times, Terrence. Those are the type of people this is going to implicate, not the Republicans, not Donald Trump.
There's so many different angles to this story. One of those angles is going to be if and when, and I say if and when because we still have to get this through the House and the Senate before it even makes to President Trump's desk. But if and when this measure is ultimately enacted, how much information will be redacted? How much information will we actually get? We know there will be scores of documents that would ultimately be released under this, but what will those documents really give us in terms of new information? I think that's got to be one of the big discussion points there in the Capitol.
Exactly. And people like Thomas Massie, for example, he is calling for every single document to be released. They do not want anything held back. They don't want anything redacted. And even the victims said, we want facts. We want the truth. They said, we want to look in the mirror at our 17, 14-year-old selves and hug them and tell them that it's okay and that other women don't have to go through this. And so, it's going to be a really interesting one to watch, and we really don't know necessarily what is going to happen, but I think it's looking good right now, Terrence.
Yeah, it is going to be a busy day there at the U.S. Capitol. The reality is, though, while this story has all of us in grips and it's kind of the big story of the day, long term, we're still looking at January 30th, and lawmakers are still working on trying to get those appropriations bills passed and making sure that there's not going to have to be the need for another continuing resolution come January 30th. And I guess that's even more, the pressure is ratcheted up a little bit more since next week is Thanksgiving, which means that lawmakers will be leaving Washington here in just a few days.
Yeah, so they will be out of session next week, but they will kick right back into session on December 1st. And that is a Monday. That is that Monday following Thanksgiving. So lawmakers will need to be right back on a plane and get back here. There is a lot of business that needs done. With this appropriation, with these bills coming to an end, I believe one of the only budgets that they've passed, Terrence, is defense. And so all these other departments that consist the U.S. government need funding. And if they can't get that down by January 30th, we are looking at another serious issue like we had the 42-day shutdown. But Speaker Johnson seems to have things under control, and both sides, lower and upper, are working together. And so we are praying, and I think all the Americans are as well, that this government shutdown will not happen again. And from what lawmakers are saying, they don't expect the government to shut down. I've talked to a few sources inside of congressional offices, and they said these committees, these members are meeting in private. They are finding a way forward because both sides saw what this did to the American people, and both sides got blowback from their constituents. And so I don't think they're going to allow this to happen again.
Are the Obamacare subsidies still kind of the main bone of contention as lawmakers work to try to find common ground on funding the government?
Yeah, it all goes back to this health care. And then, I believe we spoke a few days ago, Terrence, about, the SNAP benefits as well as the Medicaid payments and the wasteful government spending. Now, both sides are interested in this health care conversation. They both have ideas as to what they believe is the way forward for health care. Now, the Obama subsidies, it's going to be an interesting one because, like we heard a few days ago, Speaker Johnson, he did promise the vote to happen. He promised the Democrat lawmakers that he would allow this vote to come to the floor, but with a Republican-run House, it's not likely, unless Republicans cross the aisle, for this to happen. And so that's why you have people like Leader Jeffries and Chuck Schumer so mad, because they know they're not in the majority. And so even though Republicans are letting them do this vote, it probably will not make it through. But I think that also goes back to, let's sit down at a table. These lawmakers want to sit down. Let's find a way forward for health care that's not Obamacare, that puts the American people first and doesn't put money into insurance companies' pockets. President Trump wants this money to go directly to the American people so that they can choose their health care, as it always should be.
Benny Ray, before I let you go, I'd love to kind of get back to the Epstein vote, which is coming up here in about an hour and a half or so, just over, I guess. What is the mood there in the U.S. Capitol? Obviously, Republicans have called the Epstein files release a distraction. It is a contentious issue, or has been. What's the mood there in the halls of the U.S. Capitol leading up to this upcoming vote just in the House?
Yeah, well, on the Republican side, it's very much, they just want this to get over with. They are ready to put this vote to bed. They are ready to put Epstein to bed. A lot of Republicans here, Thomas Massie was just behind us a few minutes ago, and he said, he's like, it's time for this to come to an end. We want the facts. We want to know what's happening so that we can continue working for the American people and putting the American citizens first. Democrats, on the other hand, they like to argue, Terrence. We know it. They like the political show votes. That is their thing, but Republicans are focused on the American people, and they're ready for this vote to happen so that they can get government things back into place and get these initiatives that have been pushed down the line for 42 days. They can finally start working for the people again.
Benny Ray Harmony reporting for us in the halls of Congress as we are preparing for this big vote on the release, this discharge petition, as it's called, which ultimately would force the Department of Justice to release all of the files related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. We, of course, will continue to cover this for you throughout the day. We'll be following all of the very latest here on Real America's Voice. Benny Ray Harmony, we appreciate you being here with us. Thanks so much. And once again, folks, this discharge petition, that vote expected to happen between 2 and 2:15 Eastern Time. We'll be covering it here on Real America's Voice, and we'll let you know exactly what ultimately comes of it if and when this particular discharge petition passes the U.S. House, and of course, it would head to the U.S. Senate, where we're expecting that there may be some additions to that bill. President Trump already promising that if it makes it to his desk, he will sign it into order, and then we will expect to get the information on the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, as much of it as possibly would be released as soon as possible. Remember, stay tuned here to RAV for the very latest. In the meantime, it is the one time of year that the Birch Gold Group gives away free gold with every qualifying purchase. That's right, for Black Friday, where you can convert an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold, the Birch Gold Group will send you free gold to your home for every $20,000 it's purchased. Gold started this year around $2,600 an ounce, and by October, it was over $4,000 an ounce. Why, you ask? Well, you can blame global uncertainty. 2025 has been defined by trade wars, plus central banks are pulling away from the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency. And then there's, of course, military tension that continues to build. Gold tends to thrive in times of uncertainty like what we're dealing with today. If you're looking for diversity, you may want to try to diversify your savings into the Birch Gold Group, and they can help. Plus, now through November 30th, get free gold with a qualifying purchase. All you have to do is text the word America to the number 989898 and claim your eligibility and for a free information kit on gold. However, your opportunity for free gold with a purchase ends on November 30th. So don't wait. Instead, text the word America to the number 989898 for full details.